Why isn't Jordan Lawlar on the Arizona Diamondbacks roster yet?
Oh man, we're gonna have another hour.
I'm letting him rant now. This is a Jesse rant.
Yeah, go off.
Go off, young king.
Jordan Lawlar hit 2 home runs today for the Reno Aces. He is now slashing 358, 438, 612 since being promoted to Reno. That's in 16 games. That's a 1050 OPS.
You down with OBP? Yeah, you know me. Oh man.
Yeah.
Derek. I just don't I don't know. Obviously we know
Nick Ahmed has 2 home runs all year. Just want to throw that out there.
Nick Ahmed has 2 home runs all year.
All year.
Jordan Lawlar has 2 in one game.
I just want to put that out there. And it is, it's a PCL, so grain of salt, I guess. But
speaking of the PCL, Jake McCarthy is the PCL player of the week. There's another guy that we should.
But David Smith, you are an Arizona Diamondback. Woo!
What are we doing? What are we doing with these minor league moves, Jesse?
So Nick Ahmed has had a kind of a weird season. We've talked about this before. in that
he's so nice.
He has reverse splits very significantly. So he's hitting 293 this year. Entering today, he's hitting 293 this year against righties with a 439 slugging percentage. Pretty darn good numbers. I looked up the expected stats against right-handed pitching. His expected batting average is 249. His expected slug is 366. So not nearly as good as the actual numbers have been. That suggests there's been some sort of batted ball luck there. On the flip side, Nick Ahmed entered today hitting 159 with a 212 slugging percentage against lefties, which is obviously terrible. Despite the fact that Nick Ahmed, his primary role on this team is to start against lefties like he did today. He's really struggled in that regard this year. The expected numbers there suggest that he has underperformed a little bit. To a 212 expected batting average and a 302 expected slugging percentage, both of which are still very poor, right? So at this point, you have good numbers against righties, but poor expected numbers against righties. You've got atrocious numbers, frankly, against lefties, and still very poor expected numbers against lefties. Nick Ahmed has good range at shortstop.
He does have range. That is not a good arm anymore.
He does not have a good arm. He has a pretty poor arm for that position.
I mean, tonight he had a play. He made a spectacular play to field a ball, and then couldn't get it to first base in order to get the runner out.
You had to struggle so hard to find something nice to say about Nick Ahmed. He has good range. Good range.
As he does.
Major League Baseball
shortstop. He has tremendous range.
He better have good range.
Well, no,
the reason that Nick Ahmed, he is a good.
Well, he better have good something.
Shortstop in some ways, but yeah, the arm is not really the way the arm is not what it used to be, and he's making $10 million this season, right? I believe a little bit over $10 million this season. He
second highest paid player.
I think he's the third highest paid player.
Do you think
if he had been, unless you count Bumgarner?
Right. Cattell makes more, and then Bumgarner, of course, makes more. Those are the only 2 guys who make more this season. So yeah, why are the Diamondbacks? On this team
if he was not Nick Ahmed? Do you think how much of the fact that he's Nick Ahmed and has been a part of this organization forever?
You mean just the fact that his tenure,
family heritage,
respect and the loyalty.
I think that's big. I mean, I think the contract probably plays some sort of a role on some level.
And I guess it's different because
you're talking about his tenure with the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, well, I'm saying how much of kind of the showing Nick Ahmed, Mr. Diamondback.
That's Gabby Moreno.
But I mean, he is in a sense that
the fuck
he's been there forever. You know what I mean?
Calm down, David. He didn't mean it.
No, I can't.
Calm down, David.
I can't walk past that. That is disgusting.
I mean, you know what I mean. He's been there forever. How much of the loyalty to him? But yeah. I don't know.
The reality is the Diamondbacks could still probably call up Jordan Lawlar and not even do anything with Nick Ahmed if they wanted to, right? They just got an extra position player spot, which I know they used on Pavin Smith. They also brought in Emmanuel Rivera at the same time. There is some room to maneuver here on the roster if they wanted to. I would be pretty surprised. I mean, he's under contract through next season. I don't think you're going to send down Jace Peterson, but yeah, I mean, the reality is the Diamondbacks could call up Jordan Lawlar and not really lose anything in theory. They could maintain his rookie status for next year. That's just based off of days on the active roster, which wouldn't be an issue, as well as at bats, which the D-backs could control. I think even if you started basically every game the rest of the way at the major league level, I still think he would be fine from an at-bats perspective to keep his rookie eligibility for next year. With a guy, a top 10 prospect in the sport with an OPS over 1,000 in Triple-A right now at 21 years old, doing what he's doing, an offense that, as we talked about earlier, needs a spark desperately. This is something that, frankly, I don't understand. In my mind, it is a pretty clear, and this is still acknowledging that Jordan Lawlar might come up and he might struggle, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to make it
worse.
sound like Jordan Lawlar, he had a 1050 OPS in Triple-A's. It's going to be a 950 OPS in the majors. That's not how this works.
That's absolutely how it works.
But, oh my gosh. But for where this Diamondbacks offense is and the guys that they're relying on the left side of the infield right now, you got to take a shot in my mind. You just got to take a shot. And to this point, they haven't been willing to do that. And I question if they will be the rest of the way.
And how often have we seen guys get called up and just because like pitchers have never seen them before, just like have a couple of good games, a couple of good weeks, like off rip.
Yeah.
And like,
there's a lot of prospects that like those for like Ellie De La Cruz when he was first called up. Like, yeah.
Only has a couple of weeks. Like, even if he's dog shit, if he's giving you 2 good weeks, that's the difference between you making the playoffs and not making the playoffs potentially.
Yeah.
So
when
like,
you have your back against the wall,
you got to try it. I feel
you have to try it,
especially when you're struggling offensively.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest areas where you're lacking production is Nick Ahmed in the shortstop.
Because I mean, if you put this kid in Nick Ahmed's spot today, and your end of the lineup is him sandwiched between Moreno and Corbin Carroll, that just feels a lot different.
Yeah.
And again, he brought up the Reds, like the youth movement, the energy that brought through the whole team.
Yeah.
This team could really use that right now.
Piece of Yoshi says Mets just called up Mauricio. That's Ronnie Mauricio, and he's injected life into them the same way we saw.
Look at the Yankees.
Ellie De La Cruz get that.
They were literally just talking about this on Sunday Night Baseball. Like the Yankees and the Mets have both over the course of like a week has gone from complete despair to there being like this whole new reason to show up to the ballpark. And obviously, we just had a whole conversation about that. And like again, this is very different. People might not necessarily know as much about this kid as they would a Jason Dominguez, but like for so many reasons, just from an on the field and off the field, like it could be a complete just shot in the arm for the organization at a time when they very desperately need it because it's worked for other organizations who are in much worse spots than the Diamondbacks were.
By the way, just for you in the chat that's talking about Dominic Fletcher, he's on the 60-day IL now with a fractured left index finger. So.
Yeah, he's done for the year at this point.
I think the big thing there is that in order to get Jordan Lawlar on the playoff roster, the Diamondbacks would just have to have an injury, which definitely could occur.
Apparently, that's not an issue.
Yeah.
Which it amazes me how many loopholes there are with some of these.
There's loopholes.
These roster shenanigans in baseball, but yeah, it appears that if they brought up Lawlar at any point this month, they could still get him on their playoff roster if they were to make it there.